Why did a joke about my husband's tiny paycheck end up playing on a big screen in a real courtroom? How did a short video I made for likes become the reason a judge looked at me like I was the problem, not him? What happens when the man you call broke and boring answers you with lawyers and evidence instead of a shouting match? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Ianthe, and I tell stories for a living. At least, that is how I see it. Other people say I do social media for a local retail chain, that I schedule posts and answer boring comments. But online, on my own little channel, I am the main character. I am the brave, honest wife who says what other women only think. I say things like that because it sounds better than the truth. I was bored. My husband, Elliot, is the safe one. He is 36, he works IT support at a hospital, and he has the kind of job that never changes. He fixes passwords and printers and brings his little lunchbox every day. His paycheck comes in, the same number again and again. It is not nothing, but it is not big. I call it small because small is how it feels next to the life I want. I still think respect follows results, and his results are not big. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment on the 3rd floor. It is fine. It has old beige carpet and a small balcony that looks over the parking lot. There is a stain on the hallway wall that the landlord never fixes. This is not the life I show online. On camera, I sit at the one nice corner near the window. I hold my coffee in a pretty mug and talk about building your dream life. I do not show the pile of laundry behind the sofa or Elliot at the table cutting coupons from the grocery flyer. The first time I used him in a video, it felt innocent. It was a Sunday morning. He sat there in his faded t-shirt, circling deals, planning our week. He asked if I could pass him the pen, and I passed my phone instead and hit record. I talked into the camera in a low voice about being married to a man who treats buy one get one as a religion. In the clip, you could see his hand, his lunchbox, the budget notebook he kept. I posted it with the caption, "When you marry for love, not salary." People loved it. My friends commented that it was so relatable. Rowan, my best friend from college, sent a message and said that I was hilarious and that my husband sounded like a walking spreadsheet. I laughed and pinned her comment. The likes were more than usual. I told myself I was doing honest content about modern marriage. I did not say, even to myself, that I enjoyed watching other people laugh at him. Elliot saw the video that night. He came into the bedroom while I was scrolling, and he asked why I had filmed him without telling him. I said he was too sensitive, that it was just a joke, that everyone filmed their partners these days. He asked if I could take it down, because he did not like people seeing our budget book. I told him that there was nothing private in it, and that if he was ashamed, maybe he should make more money. When he went quiet, I told him he was making me feel guilty for having a hobby. At work, in the open plan office, I told my coworkers another version of that talk. I said that Elliot gets weird and controlling when I try to make content. I said he does not support my goals and acts like my little videos are dangerous. They shook their heads and told me that a partner should not put limits on your dreams. I nodded and said it was a red flag, even though he never raised his voice, never called me names, never did anything but ask me, in a calm tone, to give him privacy. It is funny how easy it is to move the story a few inches and make someone else the villain. My parents also helped my story along, without meaning to. When we had dinner at their place, my father, Anton, asked Elliot about his job. Elliot said he still worked at the hospital, same role, same team. My father asked about salary, as he always does, and Elliot gave a rough answer. My father said that it was honest pay, but not exactly dream money. I watched Elliot's jaw tighten. Later, when I complained to my mother, I repeated that part. I did not repeat the part where she said that money is not everything and that Elliot is kind and steady. Our daughter Mila is 6. She picks up words like a little recorder. One afternoon, she sat at the kitchen table coloring while I edited a new clip. I had filmed myself in the bathroom mirror, talking about being stuck with a husband who acts like the grocery bill is national debt. In the audio, I called him Budget Dad. That night at dinner, Mila looked at him and asked why he is so bad with money that Mommy has to fix it all. He looked at me, hurt, and asked when I said that. I told him it was just how kids talk now, and pretended I did not know where she got it. Rowan loved every second of it. She came to meet me at a cafe after work, a trendy place with fake plants and free Wi-Fi. We sat by the window with our iced coffees, and I balanced my phone against the sugar jar. I told her I wanted to try a Wives Who Married Broke theme. She clapped and said it would go viral. We recorded a short clip where I listed signs you married below your potential, using Elliot's habits as examples: packing a lunch, buying store brands, checking prices before we order. You could see his name on my phone lock screen near the end, when he sent a text asking if I could pick up milk. I cut that part, of course. I wanted the idea of a nameless broke husband, not the real man who washed dishes and read Mila bedtime stories. I posted the video and watched the numbers climb. 10 likes, 50, 100. Comments started to roll in again. Women wrote that they were screaming and that I should trade up. Men wrote that I sounded ungrateful. I replied to some of the women and ignored the men. I told myself that hate comments meant I was getting traction. Later, when I think back, I see little signs I did not notice in that moment. I remember Elliot standing by the kitchen counter that evening, phone in his hand, looking at something for a long time. He asked me again if I had posted anything about him that day. I said I had posted about a type, not about him. That was not true, but he could not prove it then. He just nodded and went to sit at the table with his laptop. I saw him open a folder and start typing. At the time, I thought he was doing some nerd thing for work. I did not know he was starting to keep quiet copies of my jokes. A few weeks later, Rowan said we needed better locations if I wanted real growth. She said my apartment looked small on camera and made people feel poor. She invited me to a rooftop bar downtown, the kind with fake grass, fairy lights, and loud music. She said we would film some wife confessionals and make a whole series. I wore my nicest dress and borrowed heels from her. Elliot asked where I was going. I told him it was networking with a friend, that it might help my personal brand. He asked what time I would be home. I said I did not know, that he was being clingy, and reminded him he could handle bedtime for Mila because it is not rocket science. He did not argue. He just said to text him if I stayed late. On the rooftop, the city looked bright and expensive. People in nice clothes took pictures with the skyline behind them. Rowan pulled out her phone and opened the camera app. She said we should do a salary reveal challenge, where I pretend not to know my husband's pay, and then say it out loud. I laughed. I said it might be too much. She said that was exactly why it would go viral. We ordered drinks. The waiter brought them with little slices of lime. Rowan set up the shot so you could see the lights behind us. She told me to talk about what it is like being a high-value woman with a low-value wage husband. I rolled my eyes for the camera and sighed like a tired queen. The words came out of me faster than I planned. His job title, the rough number on his paycheck, little details about his coupon habits, his cheap shoes, his old car. Rowan covered her mouth and shook her shoulders, like she could not stop laughing. People at the next table turned their heads. One woman said she felt this and raised her glass. We took it as encouragement. I added one more line about how I married for love, not money, and look where that got me. I did not mean it fully, not then, but it sounded sharp. Sharp plays well on camera. We filmed that clip 3 times. In one, I joked that his salary was basically intern pay. In another, I said that if he lost his job, No one would notice, because he is just the guy who plugs in cables. We picked the version where my laugh sounded the lightest, like I did not care at all. We thought that made it okay. I edited the video at the bar, with my drink still cold in my hand. I added captions in bold white letters. I put over it a trending audio that made everything sound silly and fast. I hesitated for a second when I typed the caption, "When you are the breadwinner and your man brings in snack money." Then I pressed post, the spinning wheel turned, and then it was done. We watched the views start climbing while we sat there, 10, 50, 300 in a few minutes. Rowan squealed and grabbed my arm each time a new comment came. Women tagged their friends and wrote things like, "This is my life," and "I would cry if my husband made that." Some said I was mean. I brushed those off. I told Rowan those people were just jealous of my confidence. By the time I got home, the video had thousands of views. Elliot was sitting on the couch with Mila asleep against his side. The TV was off. Only the small lamp was on. He stood up carefully so he would not wake her, carried her to bed, and then came back. He asked if I had fun. I told him it was productive, that we filmed good content. He asked what kind. I said it was just couple stuff, nothing serious. He pressed his lips together and nodded. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. The screen lit up with a workgroup chat. I recognized one coworker's name and a little preview of text. "Dude, this your wife?" Then a laughing emoji. He picked up the phone, opened the message, and watched something. I saw my own face reflected in his eyes. He held the phone close, silent. Then he asked in a low voice if I had told the internet his salary. I said he was overreacting, that I had just given a range, that no one would connect it to him. He said my caption had a clip of his hospital badge in the background for a second. I had not even noticed that part. I laughed it off and said only his coworkers would care enough to pause and zoom. He said that was exactly who had found it, that they were sharing it around. He asked if I knew how humiliating it was to walk into the break room and hear his wife's voice coming from someone else's phone, calling his paycheck snack money. I told him he should be proud that I was getting attention, that it might lead to sponsorships, that we both would benefit. He asked me to take the video down. I crossed my arms and said, if I removed everything that made him uncomfortable, I would have no content. I told him he sounded controlling. I said that men with real money do not mind jokes about it. That one hurt him. I could see it. He went quiet. He said he would not argue. He said he needed to think. Then he went to the bedroom and closed the door. The next day, he went to work as usual. I stayed working from home. My phone kept buzzing with notifications. The video hit 10,000 views. People made duets and stitches, some laughing with me, some calling me cruel. A woman filmed herself looking at her husband on the sofa and mouthing my line about marrying for love, not money. I was proud in a strange way. I was a sound people used. That meant I mattered. Later that week, my sister invited us all for dinner at our parents' house. Long table, too much food, the usual. Everyone sat down, plates clinking, kids running around. At some point, my sister pulled out her phone and said she had to show my parents my insane viral video. She opened the rooftop clip and turned the volume up. The room filled with my own voice calling Elliot, the man with a child's paycheck. The trending audio played under it. My father laughed in a short, surprised burst. My sister shouted that it was savage. My mother looked down at her plate. Across the table, Elliot sat very still. His face went blank, like a screen turned off. Mila, sitting beside him, looked at the phone and then at her father and said she did not want him to have snack money. She wanted him to have real money. Elliot stood up to refill the water jug, even though it was already almost full. He did not say anything. When he came back, he asked me calmly, in front of everyone, if I really thought of him that way. I smiled at the table and said not to be dramatic, that it was just a bit, that everyone knew it was exaggeration. I said the video was helping my brand. My father nodded and said that was the cost of being with a creative woman. My mother said softly that not everything needs to be shared. I rolled my eyes. That night, after we put Mila to bed and the apartment was quiet, I saw Elliot sitting at the kitchen table again. His laptop was open. The video played on the screen, but with the sound off. He pressed pause at the moment where I laughed the hardest. Then he clicked something and saved it to a folder. I saw the name only for a second. Home, Archive A. Next to it, a small phone on the table lit up with a new calendar reminder. I could read the line from where I stood. Downtown, 11:40 a.m. I asked if he had an errand. He said it was just personal. The reminder on Elliot's phone came and went without a word from him. On the day it went off, he left early, before Mila woke up. He said he had some personal errands and that he would pick Mila up from school on his way back. His voice was calm, almost flat. I watched him put his laptop bag over his shoulder and check his keys. For a second, I considered asking where he was really going. Then I told myself it was probably something boring, like a dentist appointment, and went back to my phone. That morning, I had my own plans. At the office, we had a new client coming, some tech company looking for help with a local campaign. Our manager said we needed to show them that we understood digital culture. I thought that meant I was finally in the right room. I wore a sharp blazer and spent extra time on my makeup. On the bus, I checked my notifications. The salary video kept climbing. People were still laughing, still tagging friends. A few comments called me cruel, but I told myself they did not get the bit. In the office break room, I poured coffee and talked to my coworkers about the meeting. They asked if Elliot was mad about the video. I said he was being sulky, that he did not understand how the internet works. I said he should be grateful I was building a platform. One coworker said she would not dare post her husband's salary like that. I laughed and said that honesty scares small men. They nodded in a way that told me they did not fully agree, but no one said anything more. People like to be on the side of the loudest person. Later that morning, the client arrived. His name was Cade Larkin, regional sales manager. He was tall, confident, the kind of man who walked into a room like it already belonged to him. He talked fast about numbers and growth. He shared his own success story, how he had moved up the ladder, how he now made enough to travel every month. I listened with interest because this was the sort of story I wanted attached to my life. During the meeting, our manager asked me to present some sample posts. I showed a small deck on my tablet, including a slide about relatable wife content. Cade leaned forward when he saw the engagement numbers on the rooftop video. He asked, in an amused tone, if that was the one where I mocked my husband's salary. I was surprised he knew. He said it had reached his Explore page. I felt a rush of pride and slight shame at the same time. I told him it was just a joke. He said the numbers were impressive and that brands loved honesty with an edge. He said most people were too scared to say what they really thought. I liked that he framed my behavior as brave, not cruel. My manager smiled and said I was fearless. I sat up straighter. For the rest of the meeting, I watched Cade more than I watched the slides. While I was playing star employee, Elliot sat in a small conference room across town. I did not know it then, but later he told me parts, and I imagined the rest. The law office was quiet, with soft chairs and shelves of binders. The lawyer, Zoe, listened while he explained the videos, the jokes, the way I talked about his job. He showed her the rooftop clip, the comments, the way our daughter repeated my lines. Zoe did not laugh. She took notes. She asked about our finances, who paid which bills, who handled childcare. She asked if there had been any cheating. At that moment, Elliot only suspected. He told her he was not sure, that my phone buzzed a lot, and that I talked about a male co-worker more than before. She said he should not make claims he could not prove. She told him to gather facts and keep his responses calm. She said judges did not care about loud feelings as much as they cared about patterns. She gave him a list of things to collect: pay stubs, bank statements, screenshots of my posts, any messages that showed my attitude about him and money. She explained that mocking his income online, especially with our child seeing it, might matter more than he thought. He listened carefully. He did not rant. He nodded and said he just wanted to protect Mila and keep things fair. She said that was a good goal and that he should start by saving copies of everything while it was still public. By the time he left the office, his phone had several new reminders: one to download bank PDFs, one to back up videos, one to change some passwords. He moved slowly, like someone walking through heavy water, but his steps were steady. Back at my office, Cade stopped by my desk after the meeting. He said he liked my ideas and that I had strong instincts. He asked if I ever thought of leaving small brand work and doing something bigger. I said I did all the time. I told him I felt stuck because my husband liked things small, including his career. Cade laughed and said I was clearly on a different level. He added that if I ever wanted career advice, he would be happy to grab a drink and talk. The way he said drink made it sound like more than advice. I felt a flicker of guilt, then pushed it away. I told myself we would talk about work, nothing else. I sent Rowan a message later, telling her that an actual high earner called me on a different level. She replied that it was about time I attracted someone who matched my energy. That weekend, Rowan did my hair at her salon. I sat in the chair, wearing a cape, while she painted light streaks and told the other stylists about my viral hit. She said I was the woman who told the truth about bare minimum men. The women laughed and shared their own stories. One client said her husband would divorce her if she mocked his salary online. Rowan replied that it only exposed men who already knew they were not enough. I smiled at my reflection and said I simply had standards. Between customers, Rowan asked about Cade. She wanted details. I told her he made more in a month than Elliot made in several. I told her he admired my drive. I said Elliot was jealous because he did not like me talking to a man who did better than him. That last part was not true. Elliot had not actually complained about Cade. He had only asked once who I was texting so late. But it fit the story I wanted to tell. Rowan said jealous men are the worst, and that maybe Cade was the kind of partner I should have chosen from the start. On the bus home, I watched another notification pop up. The rooftop video passed 20,000 views. Someone had stitched it with a clip of a man saying that women like me were ungrateful. The comments under that stitch were a war. Some defended me, others attacked me. I read them like they were about someone else. When I walked into the apartment, I saw that the guest room door was half open. The bed was made, but there were 2 mugs on the small table inside, and one of Elliot's work shirts hung on the back of the chair. I asked why his things were in there. He said he had moved some clothes because he did not want to wake me early when he got ready. He said it was for my rest. I told him he was being dramatic and asked if this was meant to guilt me. He said no, that he was doing what he could to keep the peace. He spent the next hour at the kitchen table again, laptop open, small USB drive beside it. I walked past and asked what he was doing. He said he was organizing files. I laughed and told him he was married to content, not computers, and that he should try living a little. He did not answer. He clicked on a folder labeled Archive A and dragged new things into it, his eyes on the screen while my phone lit up with another message from Cade. The family dinner at the restaurant was my mother's idea. She said we had not all been together in weeks, that it would be nice for Mila to see both sides of the family in one place. She picked a busy place with long tables and loud music, the kind with big plates and birthday songs every 10 minutes. I thought it was perfect. Crowds make stories feel bigger. We arrived first, Elliot carrying Mila's little backpack and holding her hand. I walked ahead of them, checking my phone for comments. The rooftop video had slowed down but was still getting steady views. A few people had stitched it to say that I was cruel or that I would regret it, but I told myself they were just jealous of my courage. I showed Rowan's latest message to Mila, the one where she said I was killing it and that men were scared of women like me. Mila asked what that meant. I told her it meant I was strong. My parents came in next, then my sister and her boyfriend, then Lena, Elliot's mother. She smiled at Mila and hugged her, then hugged Elliot. Her hug for me was polite. I did not like the way she watched me, like she was waiting for something. We sat down, the long table crowded with menus and drinks. My father asked Elliot about work. Elliot said it was the same as always, busy but steady. My father asked about money. As he always did, he asked if Elliot had asked for a raise yet. Elliot said not yet, that he was working on certifications first. My father shook his head and said he did not understand men who were content with base-level pay. My sister laughed and said he should watch my viral video for tips. She pulled out her phone and waved it in the air. I felt a small thrill. I told her she did not have to show it, but I did not mean it. She played it anyway, volume up. The table grew quiet, except for my own voice from the little speaker, talking about marrying for love, not salary, about snack money, about high-value women stuck with low-value wages. People at nearby tables looked over. 2 teenage girls whispered and giggled. My father laughed again, louder this time. He said he loved my sense of humor and that I had always been sharp. My sister said she could never imagine dragging her own boyfriend like that, but loved that I did. My mother looked between me and Elliot and asked softly if he was okay with it. I answered for him. I said he knew I was a performer, that he understood it was just content. Lena did not laugh. She watched the whole clip, then looked straight at me. She asked, in a calm voice, if I realized other children might see this and talk about it at Mila's school. I shrugged and said, kids see everything online, that this was normal now. She said that making a joke once at home is one thing, but turning your husband into a running punchline for strangers is another. I felt my cheeks heat. I said she did not understand modern life, that older generations took everything too seriously. Elliot sat silent through all of this. He cut his food into small pieces, barely eating. Mila, sitting beside him, asked why everyone laughed at Daddy's money. She said she thought he had snack money, like I had said in the video. She asked if that meant he could not buy her a big birthday present. My mother told her that her father works hard and that money is not everything. I should have agreed. Instead, I said that everyone had different goals and that some people wanted more. I meant me. After dinner, when we walked out to the parking lot, Lena pulled Elliot a few steps aside. I stayed near the car and pretended not to watch, but I saw her touch his arm and speak with a serious face. She asked him something. He answered with a small nod. She looked at me once, briefly, then back at him. Later, he told me she said he did not have to accept being mocked in public, that there were ways to stand up without shouting. At the time, I told myself she was planting drama. Life kept moving. The next week, we took Mila to the supermarket. She liked to put small things in the cart and ask if we could buy them. Elliot compared prices on cereal while I scrolled my phone. In one of the aisles, a woman in her 30s walked past, then looked back at me. She frowned like she was trying to place my face. Then her eyes widened. She asked if I was the lady from the Broke Husband video. I laughed and said, maybe. She laughed too, and said she had sent it to her group chat, that they all thought it was savage. She looked at Elliot, standing there with a store-brand box of cereal in his hand, and asked if that was snack money husband. She even used the phrase. It felt unreal, like the internet had walked into the store. I shrugged and said yes, in a joking tone. She told him he was a good sport. He did not smile. Mila stared up at her and then at him. On the drive home, Mila asked if other people always knew Daddy did not have real money. Elliot gripped the steering wheel a little tighter. I told her people were just having fun. He said nothing. At Lena's house the next Sunday, things felt different. She had invited us for lunch. There were sandwiches and fruit on the table, simple and calm. After we ate, she asked Elliot to help her in the back room with boxes. I stayed in the kitchen with Mila and my phone. I could hear faint voices through the wall. I assumed they were talking about me. That annoyed me more than any direct fight. Later, I saw Elliot carrying a stack of folders to the closet, then a small metal box. He moved carefully, like the items were fragile. I asked what he was doing. He said he was putting some important documents there for safekeeping, that Lena had more space. I joked that he was turning his mum's house into a bank. He said quietly that some things were too important to leave lying around. I rolled my eyes and made a show of checking my follow account. In my mind, he was being dramatic, acting like a victim because he could not handle a few jokes. I told myself that if he wanted me to respect him, he should work harder and earn more. I repeated that line in my head until it felt like a fact. Cade did not help. He messaged more often now. He sent pictures of his hotel rooms, his dinners on company cards, his flights. He asked how it felt to be the real breadwinner at home. I told him it was exhausting, that I was tired of carrying a man who did not match my effort. He replied that I deserved someone who saw me as an asset, not a burden. He said a woman like me should not have to explain ambition to anyone. One evening, Elliot took Mila to Lena's again, saying they were sorting old toys and clothes. I stayed home because I said I needed to edit content. The truth is, I also wanted space. As soon as the door closed, my phone buzzed. It was Cade, asking if I was free to go over a campaign idea in person. He said he could swing by my place for an hour, that it would be easier than typing. I hesitated for maybe 5 seconds. Then I told myself it was work. I told myself that if anything happened, it would be because Elliot had made me feel alone and unappreciated. I told myself a woman does not cheat. She just moves towards someone who sees her. All these thoughts ran through me before he even arrived. When Cade stepped into the apartment, carrying a laptop bag and a bottle of wine, I felt the air shift. We sat at the table where Elliot usually spread his bills and coupons. Cade opened his bag and showed me some slides about brand deals, then closed it again and looked around. He said I had potential, that with the right push I could monetize my honesty. He said men like Elliot could not follow a woman like me into the life she deserved. I let his words sink in like praise. At some point, we stopped talking about work. The distance between us changed. I knew when the line was crossed, but I told myself it did not count, not fully. I said in my head that the marriage had already died the day Elliot chose comfort over ambition. I used that as excuse for every step after. Later, after Cade left, I checked my phone. There was one missed call from Elliot and a short text asking if I needed anything from Lena's before they came home. I did not answer right away. I walked through the apartment, adjusting things that felt out of place. I opened the guest room door and saw that Elliot had laid one of his shirts over the chair, like he planned to sleep there sometimes. I told myself that this proved he had pulled away first, that he had made a choice to live like a roommate. It made it easier not to look at what I had just done. The first real crack came from something small, my phone lighting up at the wrong time. It was a Tuesday evening. Elliot was in the kitchen making pasta. Mila sat at the table doing homework, her legs swinging. I was on the couch, half watching a show, half checking comments. The apartment smelled like garlic and sauce, warm and safe. I remember thinking it was too quiet. I put my phone down on the coffee table and went to help Mila with a math sheet. While I was leaning over her, the phone buzzed. Elliot wiped his hands on a towel and walked past the table to get something from the fridge. He glanced at the screen. I saw his body pause, just a little. When I turned, he was already holding the phone. He did not shout. He asked in a flat voice if Cade talked to me like that often. I felt my stomach drop. On the screen was a preview of a message from Cade, with a little heart emoji and a line about liking women who out-earn their help desk husbands in bed and in life. I grabbed the phone from Elliot's hand and said he should not be snooping. He said he was not snooping, just walking by in his own home. He asked if I was sleeping with Cade. The question hung in the air. Mila looked up from her homework, confused. I told her to keep working, that adults were just talking. Then I told Elliot he was being paranoid, that it was just jokes, that Cade was dramatic. He watched my face, not my words. He asked again, slower. I felt heat rise in my chest. I said it had only happened a few times, that it was not like a real affair. I said it was more about feeling seen, about having someone who believed in my potential. I reminded him that I had told him for months that I felt like roommates, that he had moved into the guest room first. He pointed out that he moved because I said I needed space and better sleep to create. I pretended not to hear that part. He asked when it started. I twisted the timeline. I said it was recent, just after that big fight about the video. In my head, I counted back and knew it had started before, but I could not say that. I said his lack of ambition pushed me away, that watching him accept small money every month made me feel like I was shrinking. I used big words to cover the simple truth that I had wanted someone exciting. He listened without interrupting. That made me angry. I told him he was not fighting for me, that a real man would tell me to choose, would demand I cut Cade off. He said he would not compete with another man for his own wife. He said that if I wanted to stay, I needed to end whatever this was and stop using him as a punchline online. I said he had no right to make demands when he could not even provide the life I wanted. I heard my own words and kept going anyway. I told him I had married for love, and that love did not pay for dreams. I said other men with his skills made more, that he had chosen comfort instead of chasing higher pay. He said quietly that we were not starving, that Mila had everything she needed, that he had been careful with money so we would be safe. I called that a loser mindset. He flinched like I had hit him. Mila asked why we were talking about losers. I switched my tone and told her we were just talking about jobs, that everyone got emotional about work sometimes. Elliot told her to go brush her teeth, then sat down at the table again. He folded his hands like he was in a meeting. He asked one last time if I was willing to stop seeing Cade. I said I did not want to discuss my career contacts under pressure. He nodded. He said he understood more than I thought. He stood up, rinsed the dishes, and cleaned the kitchen. I waited for yelling, for tears, for something that told me I still mattered enough to break him. It did not come. Instead, after Mila went to bed, he sat at his laptop again. I walked past and saw a spreadsheet open. It had rows with dates, notes, account names. I asked if he was doing work. He said he was going over our finances. I joked that he always ran to numbers when he felt insecure. He did not look up. He typed in a new label at the top of the sheet, Household Overview. On the shelf behind him, a small folder I had not noticed before was labeled Utilities. The next day, he took Mila to school and stayed out longer than usual. When he came back, he had a small paper bag in his hand and a new key on his ring. I asked if he had been shopping. He said he was just organizing some things. He put the bag in the bedroom closet, on the top shelf, and locked the small drawer in the bedside table. I made a big show of being offended. I said I did not like secrets. He said not every boundary was a secret. At Rowan's salon that week, I told her the story my way. I said Elliot had overreacted to a message, that he was using it as an excuse to play the victim. I said the marriage had been dead for a long time, that Cade was only a symptom. Rowan nodded and said, if we divorced, I should make sure I did not walk away with nothing. She said men like Elliot would cling to every penny. I said he would not get the chance, that the law favored mothers. I believed that because it made me feel safe. When I visited my parents, I gave them another version. I told them Elliot had lost it over one flirty message, that he was sleeping in the guest room to punish me. Anton shook his head and said insecure men were more trouble than they were worth. He said if Elliot could not satisfy me, financially or emotionally, then I should leave and make sure I asked for what I deserved. Mara looked worried and asked if I had done anything I would regret. I told her no, that I was just exploring my options. At Lena's house, the air was different. She poured tea and watched me with tired eyes. She asked gently if there was someone else. I snapped and asked why everyone was obsessed with my choices. I said if I had done anything, it was because I was neglected. I reminded her of the videos, of how he did not support my content. She said quietly that mocking him did not count as work. I stood up, offended, and said I was tired of people judging me while enjoying my posts. Later that night, after another quiet evening where Elliot barely spoke, I decided to push him. I propped my phone on the mantel and started filming a new clip. I talked about being with a man who acts like a roommate with a discount paycheck. I said that if he could not give me the life I deserved, maybe someone else would. I used heavy dramatic language because that is what got views. Elliot walked in halfway through. He saw the red recording light. He heard the last sentence. He waited until I finished and hit stop. Then he asked if I planned to post that. I said yes, that it was my truth, that he could not silence me. He looked at me for a long time, his face calm and tired. He said he would not try to silence me. He said everyone should see who we really are. He added that he would not argue with me about this anymore. He said he was done trying to fix something I clearly did not want. He told me he would handle things properly now, through the right channels, and that I would hear about it soon. His voice was steady. That scared me more than any shouting would have. That night, as he slept in the guest room, I lay awake in our bed and watched the glow from under the door. I heard the soft beep of his phone, the click of a drawer, the tiny hum of the shredder in the corner. I told myself he was just sulking. I did not want to see that he was building a trail behind me, one I would not be able to edit or delete. My name was printed on the list outside the courtroom, next to Elliot's. Seeing it there made my chest tighten. Divorce hearing. I had practiced speeches in my head all week. I planned to tell the judge about his controlling behavior, about his jealousy, about how he held me back with his small salary. I saw myself as the brave woman asking for a fair new life. Inside, the room was smaller than I expected. Elliot sat at one table with his lawyer, Zoe. He wore a plain shirt and the same scuffed shoes people mocked in the comments. Lena sat behind him, hands folded. My parents were behind me. My father whispered that this was my chance to raise my standards. I nodded, trying to believe that. The judge came in, and everything went formal. Papers shuffled, names were read. Zoe spoke first. Her voice was calm as she described Elliot's job, his steady income, how he had always paid rent and school costs on time. She said he wanted joint custody and a simple, fair split. Then she mentioned my online content. She asked the judge for permission to play one short video. The judge agreed. The lights dimmed a little. A screen on the wall came to life. For a moment, nothing happened. Then I saw myself. There I was on the rooftop, laughing, drink in hand, fairy lights behind me. My own voice filled the court as I called Elliot, a man with a child's paycheck and snack money husband. People on the screen commented that I should trade up. I watched my face twist into that exaggerated, cruel smile I thought was charming. The judge paused the video at the frame where Elliot's work badge showed. She spoke slowly about public humiliation, about our daughter seeing this, about judgment and stability. Then she read the temporary orders. Joint legal custody, school nights mostly with Elliot, strict rules about posting him or Mila online, and no spousal support for me right now, because I could clearly earn and had chosen to damage his reputation. The gavel sounded, and my own laughing face froze on the dark screen as the hearing ended.